Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar on building wealth, and thanks for taking time. And thanks for taking time out of your busy Sunday to join us today. Um, I know many of us would prefer to rest on a day like this, spend time with family, and get ready for the work week. So I do appreciate you guys coming over and listening to me, but also investing in your future. I'll try to answer as many questions as I can um, after this meeting, just so that I could get through it, so that we're efficient with our time, and we could keep this to 1 hour maximum, 1 hour and a half. So just to be clear, this webinar is not a get rich scheme. It is focused on having a conversation on the mindset that you need to have to invest in real estate and become wealthy, and financially secured over a period of time. No one knows it all, neither do I. But the goal for today is to share some things that I've learned that I believe will help you create the wealth, create wealth through real estate. If anyone has a question, like I said, write it down. And Mr. Johnson will be keeping track of those questions, and we can discuss during our Q&A session. So a little bit about me. I'm a realtor licensed in Texas and Florida with corporate background experience. I started my career as an accountant, as a public accountant with the Big Four. Then I worked a little bit in industry, as an accounting manager. But while I was doing that, I was also investing in real estate. I took my realtor exam. Um, but then I really started my real estate investing career. I would say maybe passively by purchasing properties. Instead of renting, I tried to purchase a property. So that also helped. But when it comes to very actively investing in real estate, I started around 2017, where I got into wholesaling, then rehabbing. But right now, I'm focused on being a great realtor and investing in properties in terms of if I see a nice property I like, that I can build wealth on, that I can rent out to tenants, um, then that's what I'm focused on. That I can rent out to a tenant, then that's what I'm focused on. Um, and I'll be talking a little bit more about that also, as we get just what it takes to rent, how to build wealth. Like I said, there's no quick, real estate is primarily a long-term investment. So when you think about wealth in real estate, you got to think about long-term. I currently own and manage 7 units. Some of them are your typical 1 year lease, and some of them are your short-term Airbnb, short-term lease situation. And I've helped a lot of individuals over the last 7, 8 years to purchase real estate, either through investment or through the traditional way. And I'm just excited to have this conversation. If you want to know more about my work and my personal life, um, you can follow me on Toby CPA Realtor on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook, Twitter, um, and all those social media pages. And you can see a little bit about me on the left side of the screen. I'm a runner, would love to travel, but the biggest accomplishment here for me is towards the end, which says happily married. I'm blessed to be a dad. We have a little boy, and he um yeah, we have a little boy. My wife and I we have a little boy, and we're blessed to be parents. All right. So next slide. So why am I hosting a webinar on building wealth through real estate? There are multiple reasons why. When I got into this business in 2018, 90% of my clients were first-time home buyers and were worried about down payment and how is interest rate and just the future. um, of housing generally. Um, but now I would say 50% of my clients are either people that I've worked with in the past that want to buy a bigger house and rent their current house, or people that want to invest in real estate, invest in multifamily, invest in single units, invest in just duplex and things like that. So, and that's why I felt like there's a need to have a conversation on this. And I'm also going to be recording this so that after this call, um, if I have a specific client that wants to understand real estate investing, we can send this video. I can send this video to him or her, and they can educate themselves. Then we can have a conversation. Secondly, I really believe it is one of the simplest way to create wealth. Many wealthy people have a lot of real estate in their portfolio for a reason. It's a simple way to make money. The calculations are not that complicated. You can, I mean, the main calculations are figuring out in, let's say, 20, 30 years time, what's going to be the future value, what's your monthly payment, what's your rate of return, what's the average appreciation on a yearly basis. So it's really not that complicated. What is your cash flow? What is rent? This like basic basic math in real estate, and it's easy for everybody to understand and follow, but more importantly, to plan towards it. And thirdly, I am passionate about helping create wealth in our community. It is one of my life goals to help people. Many of us are first generation immigrants, and we don't really have our parents did not come here with a lot of properties and all that, right? Our parents were focused, many of our parents were focused on just creating a life for us to go to school here and be successful here. So, we don't really have a lot to fall back on. So it is our responsibility to figure out a way out that where we could create wealth, long-lasting wealth. Because I don't know about you, I don't trust the social security system. I don't know if it's going to be there for us. Uh, so we need to start thinking long term. We need to start thinking about retirement. We need to start thinking about creating wealth sustainably, right? Not getting rich, right? How do we create wealth that we're good? And that's real estate is one of the ways to do that. And I really do believe that each and every one of us can develop land one day, um, have farms, residential, commercial property. If we get the information that we need to have to get this done, it's not rocket science. It's about educating yourself and coming up with a plan and being disciplined to stick with it over the long run. Um, our agenda for today, I'll be talking about types of real estate, the roadmap to purchase a home, what happens when you invest in real estate, and just tips to keep in mind when investing in real estate. Um, we could go on and on with real estate. There's so much to cover. What I'm covering today is like an 7, 8 hour class, but I'm just gonna try to really summarize it so that you guys get the most important information and you guys can think about investing in the right way. So I'm not gonna cover everything because we don't have the time, and I want to be respectful to everybody's time. Types of real estate. And before I get into that, I know some of us on this call are first-time home buyers. Some of us are in college. Some of us have bought multiple properties. So I want to just catch up and make sure everybody has a base understanding of real estate. Then, so that when we start talking about the more advanced things in real estate, everybody's on the same page. So bear with me if you know some of this stuff. But types of real estate, I mean, we really have four types: residential, commercial, land, industrial. I mean, residential obviously is your single family, a one unit house homes, apartments, but really where this is basically where people really need to live, right? And residential is powerful because no matter what's going on, every human being needs shelter. Whether there's COVID, even when there was COVID, commercial real estate took a hit, but residential was fine. People still need to live somewhere. People may have done social distancing, but they didn't go on the street. So, um, if you want to invest, residential is a um, it's a very lucrative. It could be very lucrative on the long run because there's a lot of activity. The demand is gonna remain strong for residential. People leave, people die, people separate from houses. They will need to sell house, means move into another house. People inherit houses from their parents. People sell houses to make money to get into the business. So there's a lot of activity in residential real estate. So it's just about knowing the information that you need um, to purchase, um, to purchase one and to make sure that you're successful at it. Um, Commercial real estate, that's mostly takes on your offices, your industrial units, your apartment. Over here, we're talking about how can we purchase real estate for business to generate profit, right? Um, for profit, right? Land is land. You have undeveloped land. Then we have land and we have industrial real estate. So here's the buyer's roadmap to purchasing a house. For those that haven't bought a house before, or if you've bought one before in a while, I need a refresher. Here's a quick step-by-step process. Here's a quick step-by-step process. Um, and for both those that bought that were hypnotized. So here's a process to purchase. Um, you start with meeting with a professional. I know many of us don't start with this way. Many of us go to Google, and Zillow, and then sometimes we do our research and we're ready to buy. Then we actually meet a professional. I advise that immediately start thinking about purchasing a house. Meet with a professional, interview them, try to make sure they're a good fit for you. Ask about the experience, ask about their market information, their knowledge of the market, of the community, and just more importantly, make sure that they're looking out for you. They're proactive. They're looking out for you. They're proactive. They care about what you care about. They're listening to you, and they're being honest with you. So, so yeah, I think that's important. Then you get the pre-approval from the lender, and you get a pre-approval from your lender. Then you start searching for homes. Um, typically as realtors, we use MLS, but I would tell you that from an investment standpoint, um, you will be surprised the opportunities out there when you talk to your neighbors. I have two multifamily properties, one in Fort Worth, one is Tampa, and I have gotten business opportunities for somebody else to sell their property, um, uh, even before it gets on the market, and that's what you want. You want to start having conversations about deals before it gets on market, right? Because you have a good chance of striking a bargain. So for those that already have properties, know your neighbors, and also they tell you they look out for you. They let you know what's going on in the community. That will also make you know whether you need to start thinking about selling, or if there's a major improvement going in the community, that maybe you need to up your prices. So definitely look out for listings that are off market. That's an important part of investing in real estate. So then you make an offer, um, make an offer. Usually there's a pushback from the seller if you go below the asking price, you know, and hopefully you guys can agree on a price. And an escrow really means it's under contract, which means by that time you would have made a payment and no one else has access to the house. Then you have the final details, preparing for closing, and you get close. So that's a summary of the process of buying a house. There is more to it. I can spend 3 hours explaining the slide. There's a lot of information, but I just wanted to give a summary so we could get straight into investing. So what happens when you invest? So what happens when you invest? So there are three things that are really happening when you purchase a property to invest. One, you buy the property, you get a tenant, and hopefully the rent is covered by the more hopefully the rental income covers the mortgage, then your property appreciates in value. So that's really it. But we're going to dive into that a little bit more. So let's look at a practical example to see how this works, right? Um, so in this example, we have 30K down. We have estimated 4% as interest and a 30-year fixed mortgage, right? And the house was purchased for 300K, right? So we purchased the house for 300K. So let's look at practical examples, right? So, so what happens? So in this scenario, the mortgage will be 1,289, right? And your mortgage is your principal and your interest. But your total monthly payment will be 1,939 because that includes your property tax and insurance. Obviously, property rates are different in every city, in every state. So those numbers are, you could change it however you want. Insurance is also different based on are you close to a flood zone? Um, um, or just, based on how old the house is and a bunch of other issues. How old the house is, the insurance you take, are you combining with a car insurance? All those things matter. Um, but let's say approximately 2K a month. So, so like I said, you want a tenant that is paying monthly payments. You want a tenant, like I said, you want a tenant paying you your monthly payments in for 30 years. That's the goal, right? And after so so in this slide, so you have a tenant paying for 30 years, and after the 30 years, you are debt free, right? So after 30 years, you are debt free. And the property is what 973K. And we got that number by assuming your house is appreciating 4% a year, right? Which is normal. Actually, in a lot of communities, houses are appreciating 5% a year. If you bought a house in 2020 and you calculate the rate of appreciation to this time, it's very, very likely it's gone up like, more than 10%, right? But obviously the margin goes up and down on average. So in 30 years, and so so in 30 years you have 973K, right? So just to show you what has happened, you invested 30,000, and with 30,000, you were able to get a value of 973K, right? That's about a 12% return annually for 30 years. And something you need to pay attention to is that it's not that the 30,000 you put was increasing, right? It is the fact that the house you purchased was 300K, and that house gave you a return of 4% every year. And that's how you're able to get to and that's how you're able to get to 12,000, right? So if you do so annually, you're gonna make 12,000. Let me see. So let's investigate the alternatives that most people gravitate to, which is the stock market, right? Let's assume you put 30K in stock versus 30K in housing, right? How does that work? Um, if you put 30K in stock and you just with an assumption of 10, put 30K in stock, and let's say it has an annual return of 10%. Um, you're gonna have 523K after 30 years when it's all said and done, right? So when it's all said and done, so 10% market versus 4% rental property. So the downside of stock, as you can see from this slide, right? - 10%, as you can see from this slide, you get 10%, right? So your monthly return is 10%. Um, so as you can see in the slide, your 10%, hmm. Yes, you get returns of 10% yearly. And initially, you get 4% returns on your property because of appreciation, right? You get 10% on stock, but the thing is that you're getting 10% of your 30K investments in the stock market. In real estate, you're getting 4% on 300K, but you're actually having that 300K serviced through by having a tenant, right? So the downside with stock is you're not experiencing the power of leverage when it comes to investing. When it comes to um, investing. So can things go wrong? Of course, things can go wrong with a rental property. Can have bad tenants, vacancies, unexpected repairs. Yeah, things go wrong with rental property, bad tenants, vacancies, unexpected repairs, weather-related catastrophes, a housing market crash. But many of these factors too can impact your stocks too. Um, so there's no investment that is risk-free. High risk, high returns is what they say.